Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jayam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tiriyat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 13, the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, text 119 onwards. So yesterday we studied how Sachi Mata and Nimai were visited by Sita Thakurani, wife of Advaita Acharya. Aiche Shachi Jagannath Putra Paya Lakshmi Nath Purna Haila Sakala Vanchita Dhan Dhanya Bhare Ghara Lokmanya Kalevar Dine Dine Hai Anandita. In this way, Mother Shachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, having obtained a son who was the husband of the goddess of fortune, had all their desires fulfilled. Their house was always filled with riches and grains. As they saw the beloved body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, day after day, their pleasure increased. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everyone offered respects to him. Even the denizens of heaven used to come in the dress of ordinary men to offer their respects to the Lord. His father and mother, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, seeing the honor of their transcendental son, also became very pleased within their hearts. So even the people of heavenly planets, not only the demigods, the people living there, they would also come and offer their respects. Mishra Vaishnav Shanta Alam Patta Shuddha Danta Dhana Bhoga Nahi Abhimana Putrera Prabhave Jata Dhana Ashi Mele Tata Vishnu Prite Dvija Dena Dhana. Jagannath Mishra was an ideal Vaishnava. He was peaceful, restrained in sense gratification, pure and controlled. Therefore, he had no desire to enjoy material opulence. Whatever money came because of the influence of his transcendental son, he gave it in charity to the Brahmins for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Lagnagarni Harshamati Nilambara Chakravarti Gupta Kichu Kahila Mishrere Mahapurushera China Lage Ange Bhina Bhina Dekhi Etari Be Sansare. After calculating the birth movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nilamba Chakravarti privately said to Jagannath Mishra that he saw all the different symptoms of a great personality in both the body and birth movement of the child. Thus he understood that in the future this child would deliver all the three worlds. So that's why he was named Vishwambar. But he didn't tell something that he knew Jagannath Mishra would not like. He didn't tell that your boy is going to take sannyas, because that was in the horoscope, but Nilamba Chakravarti didn't disclose that. Aiche Prabhu Shachi Ghare Kripa Ekaila Avatare Yeha Kare Shravana Gaura Prabhu Dayavai Tare Haena Sadae Sri Pahe Tahara Charana. In this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his causeless mercy, made his advent in the house of Shachi Devi. Lord Chaitanya is very merciful to anyone who hears his narration of his birth, and thus such a person attains the lotus feet of the Lord. So we have heard it, and this is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami saying, such a person attains the lotus feet of the Lord. Paya manusha janma yena shune gaura gun hena janma tara vyartha haila. Paya amrita dhuni piye visha garta pani janmi yase kene nahi maila. Anyone who attains a human body but does not take to the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is baffled in his opportunity. Amrita Dhuni is a flowing river of the nectar of devotional service. If after getting a human body, one drinks the water in a poison pit of material happiness instead of the water of such a river, It would be better for him not to have lived, but to have died long ago. So we all run after so much of material things, possessions, and happiness. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, if we are not drinking the water from this Amrita Dhuni, flowing river of the nectar of devotion service, we should have died long ago. In this connection, Srimad Prabodhanand Saraswati has composed the following verses in his Chaitanya Chandramrita. Achaitanyam idam vishwam yadi chaitanyam ishwaram na vidu sarva shastragya hi api brahmayanti tejana. This material world is without Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna consciousness personified. Therefore, if a very learned scholar or scientist does not understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, certainly he is wandering uselessly in this world. Prasarita Mahaprema Piyusha Rasa Sagare Chaitanya Chandra Prakate Yodino Dinayavasa. A person who does not take advantage of the nectar of devotional service overflowing during the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult is certainly the poorest of the poor. Poorest of the poor. Avatirne Gaura Chandra Vistirne Prema Sagare Suprakashita Ratnoghe Yodino Dine Evasa. The advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just like an expanding ocean of nectar. One who does not collect the valuable jewels within this ocean is certainly the poorest of the poor. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, says, a person who has no connection with Krishna consciousness may be a very great personality in so-called human society, but actually is no better than a great animal. Such big animals are generally praised by other animals like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. A person who does not lend his oral reception to hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered to have ear holes like holes in a field. Although that person has a tongue, it's like the tongue of a frog, which unnecessarily creates a disturbance by croaking, inviting the snake of death. Similarly, a person who neither takes advantage of the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, nor smells the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, must be considered dead, even though he is supposedly working. Means if we don't use our senses in hearing about, talking about, or serving the Lord, then it's just like either we have senses of animals because they cannot serve the Lord, or it's just like dead body, walking dead body. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto says, who but the animal killer or killer of the soul will not care to hear glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Such glorification is enjoyed by persons liberated from the contamination of this material world. This killer of the soul. So, killer of the soul. Soul cannot be killed. But if we are not using this body, human body, in service of the Lord, then the soul, which is supposed to be on the path back home, back to Godhead, it's just going to stay here for a long time. So basically, it's like killing of the soul. Not nourishing it, not taking, taking the soul back. Well, taking the soul back means we are separate from the soul, or not making progress. Then we are not going on the right path. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Na tirtha pada sevai jivan napi mrito his. All the person is apparently living. If he does not serve the lotus feet of great devotees, he is to be considered a dead body. Heavy. Bhagavatam is very heavy. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Acharya Advaita Chandra Swarupa Rupa Raghunath Dasa Iha Sabara Shri Charan Sire Vande Nijadhan Janma Lila Gaila Krishnadasa. Taking on my head my own property, the lotus feet of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Swarup Damodar, Rup Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami, I, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, have thus described the advent of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, Advaita Prabhu, Swarup Damodar, Rup Goswami, Raghunath Das, and their followers are all accepted by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Anyone who follows in the footsteps of Kaviraj Goswami also accepts the lotus feet of the above-mentioned lords as his personal property. For a materialistic person, material wealth and opulence are only illusory. Actually, they're not possessions, but entanglements, because by enjoying the material world, the conditioned soul becomes more and more entangled by incurring debts for his present enjoyment. By incurring debts for his present enjoyment means got to pay for it later. Unfortunately, a conditioned soul considers property for which he is in debt to be his own, and he is very busy acquiring such property. Not just such property, many more properties. But a devotee considers such property not real property, but simply an entanglement in the material world. If Lord Krishna is very pleased with the devotee, he takes away his material property. As he states in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasya Manugranami Harishyata Dhanam. To show special favor to a devotee, I take away all his material property. So the real property is lotus feet of, as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Lord accepts he accepts the lotus feet of above-mentioned lords as his personal property. Or the real property that we have is every day when we chant the holy names, we are putting that holy name in our bank balance, spiritual bank balance. So that is a real property that will never go away. Nobody can remove it, take it away from us. It will always remain. It's an eternal bank balance. Materially, whatever we make, it will be taken away. For karmis, Krishna says, Mrityu sarvarashaham. In the form of death, I take away everything. For devotees, if the material property is presenting an obstacle in his progress or surrender, Krishna removes that obstacle. So for a devotee who's advanced, he's not at all attached. If he has property, if he doesn't have property, it doesn't matter. He's not attached. So sooner or later, it will be taken away. Whether we give it up voluntarily or we give up the thought or tendency of thinking, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am the proprietor of this property. A devotee considers such property not real property, but simply an entanglement in the material world. If Lord Krishna is very pleased with the devotee, he takes away his material. To show special favor to a devotee, I take away all his material property. Similarly, Narottam Das Thakur says, Dhana Mora Nityananda Radha Krishna Shri Chara Sai Mora Pranadha. My real riches are Nityanand Prabhu and the lotus feet of Shri Radha and Krishna. Before the praise, O Lord, kindly give me this opulence. I do not want anything but your lotus feet as my property. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in many places that his real property is the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Unfortunately, we are interested in unreal property and are neglecting our real property. Adhane jatan kari dhan tyagi. And here Prabhupada is quoting Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur was actually son of a king. Wasn't an ordinary person, very, very rich person. But he was rich both ways, materially and spiritually. Sometimes Smartas consider Raghunath Das Goswami a Shudra, but Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami here especially mentions it, Swarupa Rupa Raghunath Das. Therefore, one who considers the lotus feet of Raghunath Das to be transcendental to all divisions of the caste system enjoys the riches of actual spiritual bliss. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, 13th chapter, describing the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So since we have time, we can start the next chapter, chapter 14. Lord Chaitanya's childhood pastimes. Text 1. Kathanchan smrite yasmin dushkaram sukaram bhavet, vismrite viparitam syat, Shri Chaitanyam namamikam. Things that are very difficult to do become easy to execute if one somehow or other simply remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one does not remember him, even easy things become very difficult. To this Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. In his book Chaitanya Chandramrita, Srila Prabodhanand Saraswati says, one who receives a little favor from the Lord becomes so exalted that he does not care even for liberation, which is sought after by many scholars and philosophers. Similarly, a devotee of Lord Chaitanya considers residence in the heavenly planets a will-o'-the-wisp. Means it basically does not exist. Flower in the sky. He surpasses the perfection of mystic yoga power because for him the senses are like snakes with broken fangs. So they're not at all poisonous or they cannot hurt anybody. A snake is a very fearful and dangerous animal because of his poison fangs. But if these fangs are broken, the appearance of a snake is no cause for fear. The yoga principles are meant to control the senses, but there is no scope for the senses of one engaged in the service of the Lord to be dangerous like snakes. These are the gifts of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in Bhagavad Gita class, we are discussing this Dhyana Yoga. It means to control the senses. But here, Prabodhanand Saraswati Thakur says, that the senses of one engaged in devotion service, they become what? Like a snake with his poisonous fangs broken out. Means they're not at all dangerous. These are the gifts of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hari Bhakti Vilas confirms that difficult things become easy to understand if one remembers Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and easy things become very difficult to understand if one forgets him. We actually see that even those who are very great scientists in the eyes of the general public cannot understand this very simple idea that life comes from life, because they do not have the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They defend the false understanding that life comes from man, although they cannot prove that this is a fact. Modern civilization, therefore, progressing on the basis of this false scientific theory is simply creating problems to be solved by the so-called scientists. So problems created by scientists and they're to be solved by so-called scientists. And the only reason is because they don't take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita takes shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to describe the pastimes of his appearance as a child. Because one cannot write such transcendental literature by mental speculation. One who writes about the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be especially favored by the Lord. Simply by academic qualifications, it's not possible to write such literature. So especially favored, we need the mercy of Lord, not just the Lord and his devotees also. And then one can write such beautiful transcendental literature. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhur Kahilai Janma Lila Sutra Yashodanandana Yeche Haile Shachiputra. I have thus described in brief the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared as the son of Mother Shachi, exactly as Krishna appeared as the son of Mother Yashoda. Srila Narottam Das Thakur confirms this statement that now Lord Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, has appeared again as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becoming the son of Mother Shachi. Brajendra Nandan Jai Sachi Sutta Haile Balarama Hailanita. The son of Shachi is none other than the son of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. And Nityanand Prabhu is the same Balram. Sankshepe Kahila Janma Lila Anukram Eva Ebe Kahi Balya Lila Sutrera Ganam. I have already briefly spoken about the pastimes of his birth in chronological order. Now I shall give a synopsis of his childhood pastimes. Vande Chaitanya Krishnasya Balya Leelam Manohara Lokikim Apitam Isha Cheshtaya Valitantaram. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the childhood pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna himself. Although such pastimes appear exactly like those of an ordinary child, they should be understood as various pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So not an ordinary child. In Bhagavad Gita, this statement is confirmed as follows. Avajananti mam mudha manushintanum ashritam param bhava majananto mam bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. To execute his pastimes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears on this planet or within this universe like an ordinary human being or human child. Yet he maintains his superiority as a Supreme Lord. This is something ignorant people. That's what Krishna says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They cannot understand. They think we have made an ordinary man as God. Arya Samaji says Krishna is not God, he's just an historical personality. And others who don't have faith in Krishna, they all make some stupid comments about Krishna. They cannot understand. Because they see Krishna as an ordinary human being. Even though he has performed superhuman pastimes, wonderful, beautiful pastimes. But generally, people cannot understand that. How can he be God? And that's why this non-Sanatani religious faiths, for them, God is somebody distant and somebody just cannot talk about him, cannot describe him, cannot see him, cannot touch him. And we just only have to follow his messengers. But why can't God come and perform his pastimes among us? In like a, not he is a human form, but like a human form. Who can stop him? If he wants to do that, who can stop him? And when Krishna, he came, he performed his pastimes, and when Arjun wanted to see the universal form, he showed his Virat Roop also. But then he just wound up the Virat Roop and came in his two-handed form. But those who don't have this devotional bent in the mind, they cannot understand. Duryodhana also saw the Virat root 2 times, but he still could not understand Krishna. So what to speak of all ordinary people like us? Very, very difficult. To execute his pastimes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears on this planet or within this universe like an ordinary human being or human child. Yet he maintains his superiority as a Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna appeared as a human child, but his uncommon activities, even in his childhood, like the killing of the demon Putna or the lifting of Govardhan Hill, were not the engagements of an ordinary child. Similarly, although the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, as they will be described in this chapter, appear like the activities of a small boy, they are uncommon pastimes, impossible for an ordinary human child to execute. But yet he did, and not too long ago, only 500 some years ago, in Navdvip. And with these pastimes, he just attracted so many people. And further pastimes, he attracted many more people. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance. Prabhuji, we will read Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instructions. Sorry, Nectar of Instruction we have already done, Nectar of Devotion.
Yeah, maybe after Chaitanya Charitamrita is over. But Nectar of Devotion, actually, it has to be done in a class setting, not over internet.
Okay.
There are 2 books. There's one Nectar of Devotion and another book that is like a reference book. It goes with Nectar of Devotion. And that's how we explain or understand it better, actually.
Okay, Prabhuji. So actually, people who were doing Bhakti Shastri course in our this Kharadi Bhakti Yoga Club, they say that Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, and then Bhagavad Gita. These are
and Ishopanishad.
Yes, and Ishopanishad. Yes. So Ishopanishad is a small book.
Yeah, it's a very, just like Nectar of Instruction, it's a small book.
Yeah, but actually it's very deep. Nectar of Instruction is on itself very, very deep, and then Nectar of Devotion. So,
yeah.
So I am not doing this Bhakti Shastri course, but I'm really liking that what Prabhupada has written, so described it, especially when in Chaitanya Charitamrita every time we get some reference, so it's really nice.
Yeah.
And thanks to you, Prabhuji, actually, because of you, we completed Bhagavatam, now Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Instruction. My God.
Because of you all, I'm getting this opportunity to study.
I'm really.
Otherwise, I won't get this.
So many stories we covered in Bhagavatam, and now so many stories here also. My God.
Oh yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, they're amazing. There's so many pastimes.
I don't know how much philosophically I'm getting it, but yeah, I'm really liking this journey.
We just enjoy. Keep going, that's all.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.